Holmes, will you explain the reason and rhyme behind this masquerade?
Elementary. We shall conduct an experiment that will allow us to answer a simple question. Does the type of weapon used by the killer correspond to a specific profession? And here are our sow's heads. Congratulations, Watson.
You're welcome, Holmes, but what do you really want to do? Take up a collection?
There is nothing further to find in this room, Watson. However, I need some knives. Our only hope is behind this door. This wheel is broken and prevents the door from sliding. This wheel is broken and prevents the door from sliding. This wheel is broken and prevents the door from sliding. There, this door is slightly raised. This wheel is broken and... Elementary. While I prepare our experiment, could you find me 2 knives? A small one, somewhat larger than a pocket knife, with a large, sharp blade. We'll need it to separate the bones and to cut through the thick skins. Then find me a long knife that's at least 13 inches long, no shorter, that's sharp and has a thick blade.
Fine, Holmes, but I'd like to tell you about Hardiman. Do you know that he prepares his kebabs himself and...
That he owns butcher's tools and uses offal? That's obvious, Watson. Pray, take my magnifying glass and my rule and get started, Watson. Find me these 2 knives.
Thanks to the magnifying glass, I can find a small knife that matches Holmes's description. Fragments of cartilage. Large size. With the rule, I must find a large knife. Size, 13 inches. Size, 7 inches. Here are the knives you asked for. Be careful, they're awfully sharp. Holmes, I must say that this experiment is making me rather uneasy, comparing animal heads to these poor women.
You're right, Watson, but this somewhat shocking experiment may help to end this massacre and save other victims. You can be sure of that. Look, these pigs' heads are still bloody, which will suit our experiment perfectly. I have a pocket knife and a scalpel with me. With the 2 knives you just brought me, we have a similar array of weapons as those probably used by the killer. We saw 3 types of throat wounds on the deceased attributed to this man, those intended to slit the throat, those intended to decapitate, and the more superficial yet mortal wound that led to the death of the unfortunate victim in Dutfield's yard, Miss Stride. With the help of these 4 knives, we are going to try to recreate these wounds on the pigs' heads and see what we can establish about the weapon or weapons used. We may also be able to rule out Miss Stride as a victim of the killer of the other 3. Let's try to use these weapons on this head to obtain a large deep wound to the throat, like those that were noted on 3 of the 4 victims. This little knife is very sharp and has a very wide blade. This pocket knife is very sharp, but its blade is too thin. The wound is too shallow. Look, Watson, this knife easily penetrates the flesh. Elementary. Let's try to decapitate our victim with these tools, knowing that the killer didn't quite manage to do it.
Charming.
Look, Watson, this little knife with a wide base can easily slice the vertebrae of our porcine friend. The blade of this pocket knife is too thin to reach the vertebrae. With a scalpel, the wound is too shallow. This knife with a long blade easily slices the flesh, but cannot dislocate the vertebrae. Elementary. Let's see if these knives can inflict a mortal wound in a situation where a single quick blow is given. The scenario in question is that of Dutfield's yard. Look, Watson, the blade sinks easily into the flesh. In using the cutting edge of this pocket knife's blade, I can scrape the skin. This particularly sharp blade can make a deep gash with one quick slice. It cuts through the flesh easily as the blade is so sharp. Elementary. That's it, Watson, the big knife. With respect to the opinion of the medical examiners who noted that a butcher's knife with a long blade would have caused the eviscerations on some of the victims, we can assume, Watson, that he only used this type of weapon as it is capable of inflicting all of the wounds displayed. Furthermore, the Dutfield's Yard murder remains attributable, for the moment, to the Whitechapel killer, if we are able to explain why the murderer used his knife in a different manner. Why not go there now? We will try to reenact the killer's actions that night. Our first objective will be to clarify one way or another the statements of Constable Smith as well as this Hungarian by the name of Schwartz. We must also try to find out more about the International Working Men's Educational Club, underneath which the murder took place, perhaps at the Wasp's Nest.
Yes, let's go to Dutfield's Yard or wherever, but quickly. I am in urgent need of fresh air.
Let's go to the Wasp's Nest. Don't forget that Bluto may still be hiding here. I will try to find out more inside. You, Watson, must intercept the policeman on his rounds. Given the hour and a bit of luck, it will be Smith. Try to get some information from him.
Understood, Holmes.
A draft, my good man.
Here, sir.
Tell me, was it not a mere stone's throw away from here that the Whitechapel killer struck last week?
That'd be Jack the Ripper, that's his name. Slit the throat of a working girl in a small courtyard over there behind them big wooden doors.
Below the Workers' Club?
The very spot, below Lipsky and Co. I wouldn't be surprised if Jack was one of them, if you catch my drift.
Lipsky and Company. Do you mean to say that someone called Lipsky runs this club?
Nah, it's just that it's full of Jews. In Whitechapel, we call them all Lipskys, like that Lipsky who killed that girl in Batty Street last year.
Oh, really?
Last year, a Jew named Israel Lipsky killed a lass who was 6 months pregnant by making her drink acid. One trial and one protest by rabbis later, and he was hanging. By those who don't much like him, the Jews are called Lipskys.
Is the term Lipskys used to refer to the Jews in the area, and is this club frequented by Jews?
You got it. Socialist Jews even. They spend their evenings hollering, singing. I've seen them spitting on the bosses.
And you know the victim?
No more her than any other. The working girls don't drum up business too much in this street. They need a reason to end up here.
Very well. Goodbye.
Cheers.